Hello and welcome to everyone accompanying us in the newest episode of Pier-to-Pier podcast, exploring the people who reside within the virtual worlds and the stories and knowledge they carry. Tonight at the pier, I have a really good friend of mine from many years ago. Somebody who is a fairly interesting individual with a lot of things to say, both about his VR experiences as well as his own life experiences. Tonight at the pier, I have the honor of having Deavial accompany me. Deavial, welcome to the pier.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, since peer-to-peer is all about the people who call VR their second home, where they spend multiple hours in there, how about you tell our great audience a little bit about who you are?
I'm a little dog in VR. In the real world, I live in the U.S. I'm natively from New York. Lived all over this country over time, and currently live in Texas.
Right. So, what do you usually do, like outside or in here? Like, what is your skill set? What have you done job wise?
I started my career in software a long time ago. Moved up into a systems architect, and eventually became CTO. In the mid 2000s, I started a production company. So I have that. I just kind of all over the map. I don't believe in labels, or I call them boxes, where you wait for permission to do something. I believe life is a journey, and it's not about the destination. It's about challenging yourself and doing things that are supposed to be impossible and seeing if you can achieve them. And that's it in a nutshell. So a lot of my life doesn't make sense to people because it shouldn't. But
You see, you say it shouldn't make sense, but I believe that everything happens for a reason. There's nothing set in stone. Anybody could be anything. Hey, you could be a doctor who later turns out to be an astronaut. Like, there's no limit to what you could do out there in the world.
Yeah,
you could be multiple things, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I do get it from the outside when they'll hear things. I've even had in the software industry when they knew that I had a movie coming out, and they're like, well, you can't be both things. And it was like, and my answer to that was, well, I can also cook. Am I not allowed to be a cook? But in my head, they're all intertwined. And they probably are too, because obviously you're doing entertainment industry. There's very little difference between managing a software project and managing a production. So it's yeah. In my head, it's all similar. But
I mean, there are a lot of things, at least in the managing level, in the management sector, that could be translated between one thing and the other.
The logistics.
So I totally believe you. I totally believe you and your point. And again, I don't blame. I don't know why people tell you, like, oh, if you're a software architect, you can't do audiovisual production or work at a production house or run a production. Like, heck, you could be a baseball player with a lot of money, and you don't have to only be a baseball player. You can do some other things. You can invest your own money into other things, devote your time into other things. That's what time's for. If you have time and you have the opportunity to do something with it, like, you're doing exactly that. So I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
I think it goes back. If you go all the way back in time, people were born into a station in life, and this is what they were going to be. And I think part of that mentality is still around. And I do see everywhere where people are waiting for somebody to give them permission to do something or to accomplish something. Here's a good example that I tell actors. When I hear somebody come and say, I am an aspiring actor, No, you're not. You're either an actor or you're not. You're not aspiring. Aspiring is waiting for somebody to give you permission to do this. So, are you an actor or are you not an actor? I didn't ask you if you're a good actor. I just asked you if you are one. And it's stuff like that, you know. You don't have to be good at everything, but nobody needs to give you permission to try.
I love that mentality. I love it. And you apply it in your line of work. So whenever somebody tells you like, "Oh, I would like to do something," or like, "I would like to be this," you just go ahead and be like, "No, you either want to or you don't. Or you either are or you aren't."
Oh my gosh, I just thought, I was like, wow, did I just quote Yoda?
Did you just quote Yoda?
I don't know, but it just came into my mind, and I'm like, wait, didn't Yoda tell Luke this? Try or try not, be or be not. Oh, maybe I took
don't
that
know.
to heart.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it should be. Hey, maybe it's a you original. Maybe it's a Deavial original. But still, it is good advice. It is good advice. So, I mean, you already established that you have a production house. So that means that you're already like on the top level. You're managerial. So you manage everything. So you got to have that mentality in order to drive forward projects, which you just prove it by literally quoting Yoda. Wait, I don't know if it was a direct quote from Yoda or not. But so you began as a software architect, but how does one go from being a software architect to working in audiovisual? Like, where was the leap taken?
It was a bet that
It was a bet.
A drunken bet that somebody told me that I couldn't do it. And the one thing in my life you can never do is tell me that I can't do something. Because I'm going to do whatever it takes to prove you wrong. I have to say that I had a benefit of being in the software industry to pull it off in that I had money. So I basically bought my way into the, into film production, where, most people are, paying their dues and going to school and doing all of this stuff. I went in a different route. I went in as kind of like under the executive producer route, where I would fund the film that was going on, but in exchange, I wanted access to the set. So there was no giving me my money back. It was, I want access to the set, and I'll get coffee. I don't care. I just want to learn.
So not even points. So you got the so you got a position as executive producer, and not even points, because usually that's what producers get, a cut of the revenue.
And it sounds like a sweet deal, but there were, it was still difficult to do because, there were some that didn't want to have the liability of you there, or there were some. I understand all of this now, but I didn't understand in the beginning. But you have actors on set. You're not aware of the protocols. You don't know what you are not supposed to do, or even when it comes to the unions, like, you don't touch this over here. You don't. There was obviously valid concern of me coming on, but some that had run out of money or stuff like that did actually let me come on board, and that's how I came in. And then I met a director named Lee Gordon, G. Lee Gordon, and we were talking and everything. I think we were doing I think it was one of those like 24-hour film festival type things that we were doing. And but I was there, and he told me that I would make a really great producer. Because at first I wanted to be a director. That was what the bet was for. And
Everybody wants to be a director.
Yeah, I know. But I suck as a director. That is not the job for me.
No. I don't think so. You see, there are people who do believe that they're bad directors, but I mean, the only way for you to know if you're going to be a bad director is to try.
Yeah, you have to actually do it. And then when you realize what the job of the director actually is, it is not for everyone. Because a lot of people have this misconception that the director is in control of everything. They're like, we have the facade in the industry of the glittery curtain, and what the world believes. I'm not going to break that curtain, but what the world believes is largely
don't
wrong.
worry. I know everything about the dark and gritty world of filmmaking. I know it's not sunshines and rainbows. People see the end result. You see, people think that the industry, it's so easy. Like, oh, you just go in there and you just do your thing. Everything's going to be okay. It was going to be perfect. Then you realize that productions are just like hell, and anything and everything will go wrong, and it's just like a mad dash to fix everything. Right? Like all of the big movies.
It's logistics. It's logistics. It's
all of the big movies. They have their stories. They have their chaos. It's not like, oh, look, it's this movie with Brad Pitt. Oh, behind the scenes while they were filming, probably something was set on fire by accident. And
right.
You never know because you only see the end result. You only see the years and years of work cramming to 2 hours or hour and 30 of a movie. You don't see like everything that went on there unless you watch a BTS, a behind the scenes, and even then sometimes I don't go over everything.
Yeah. Yeah, the fire thing, I got a story on that one. But the director, I told him that he was doing a short called Blue Moon, and he was like, I would like you to come on and produce it. And I was like, I've never produced a movie or a film or a movie or anything. I'm not comfortable with that. I need to find more information. And I said, but I'll come on as like an assistant or something like that. And he agreed, and we went to our first table read in pre-production, and he went around the room and he was introducing the actors and everything, and then he gets to me and he tells everybody, and this is your producer, and anything you need, you go to them and you will have it done in 24 hours. And I was just like,
no.
Oh
no. Everything's gonna be okay. They proceed to dump everything on you. Like, this is the guy that will fix all of your problems. Any inquiry, go to this person. You're
and
like,
I don't know what I'm doing.
This was not part of the pamphlet. This was not part of the pamphlet.
But I had to pretend that I knew what I was doing because I didn't know what I was doing.
You learned on the job.
And
you learned by doing.
And he knew I didn't know what I was doing, but he still threw me into the ring of fire. But I guess he recognized I just work really well under pressure. So,
oh boy!
But it did force me to learn really quickly, into where I might have spent like years dragging my thumb, like reading every book or watching every, instructional video, which there's not going to be that much on production for that. But, it forced me it forced me to learn fast. And then I learned, I was like, oh wait, this is no real different than my day job, except for, the scenario is different, but the logistics of it are kind of this. Well, no, actually, no. Now that I think of it, they're not the same. I mean, I don't have to get locations and sets and permissions and title chains and all of that in software. But yeah, so.
Same, but different, but still same.
Yeah, but still the same. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because in my head it's the same, but when I actually look at it, like it's not
and
the same.
By the way, my director, my director just told me that indeed Yoda did say a quote very similar to what you did. Yoda said, "Do or do not. There is no try." That is a direct quote from Yoda.
I must have
So
taken
I
that
think
to heart.
you you did quote Yoda there.
But yeah, but as for burning it down, on that Blue Moon set, I had to put a stop. We one of the scenes we were filming in, we had this location. It was a bar in Dallas, and the the bar, we had to close off the main entrance and of course seal up all the windows. I'm sure you're familiar with that. So, so that patrons wouldn't go in because we had the bar closed for the day. And so we only had the one side door, which was for us to go in and out. The inside of the bar was completely lacquered. And the director had decided that he wanted to do a scene where they would, put the alcohol trail down the bar and light the fire, so the fire would go down the bar. And I'm like, are you nuts? We have 100 extras on this set. We literally had 100 extras, plus the 6 actors, all of the crew. We have one entrance to get out of this building, and this bar is lacquered, and lacquer goes up in flames like nothing.
Question: did you guys have a fire safety expert on set? Because I feel like you should. You should have.
I didn't know about those yet.
So you were doing this without a fire safety guy.
We had no insurance. We had no fire safety. We had we had a crafts table.
Guerrilla filmmaking. That's guerrilla filmmaking. That's just like, hey, let's do this. If it works, great. If it burns down, we're screwed.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of things that I didn't know about in the beginning, or even know that it was like my responsibility to do it, and the director is not going to care. He's not going to pay attention. But yeah, that was one of them. But at the same time, I don't think I would have thought about a fire inspector or a safety person for that, because we didn't have anything in the script that called for this. And so this was like out of the blue, so fire was not like on my radar until it was all of a sudden, hey, I got a great idea. Let's do this. But needless to say, it didn't happen. I was having a hard time getting him to fight, so I pulled all the actors off and I explained my concern. And I got all the actors to side with me that if he attempted to light the bar on fire, that we were all walking off set. And so we basically
good for you guys
unionized on
good
set
for
to
you
stop
guys.
him. Yeah.
I mean, I had my fair share.
It's the only power I had.
back in film school. I had my fair share of independent short films, and there were some things that were done back when I was a student that definitely you shouldn't do. Like, for example, there was this one short. I didn't work on it, but I did hear the story because it was the talk of the campus. So they were doing a shoot with there was supposed to be a gun in the shot.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of, I don't know, getting an airsoft weapon, fake replica or something, they got a real life revolver.
Oh no.
And they were pulled over by police.
Did you have your arms person?
Nope, because it was a bunch of students. I wasn't there. I wasn't involved with that, but it was a talk of the campus because you hear the stories of whenever things go awry. And that just made me think, like, hey, if you're gonna, like, either you get a fake weapon or you get a firearm person to go with you, or somebody with like a background that won't get you in trouble, like anything. Like, they didn't have no bullets, but it was still a real gun, and they had no permit, they had no papers. So it's like, why? Same thing with this fire situation. Like, I know you learn by doing, but at the same time, sometimes when you make a movie, you gotta ask: is the risk really worth it? Like, shouldn't we take like more precautions?
Yes, you should take more precautions. Of course, now I would take all of that, your safety meetings, all of that seriously. Especially now that I have the experience of knowing that um, chaos happens on these sets and they can get out of control really fast. Um, but it's all hindsight knowing this information. Even the information you have now is hindsight from when you were a student. So, but it all needs to be taken seriously. Yeah. Which scares me when I do see people, or I have friends that are actors and they go and, uh, they're doing the guerrilla or gonzo style filming. And I hear that there are, weapons. And so I was like, you could end up dead. You you're not protected. You're not even insured. I mean, if they can't afford to pay you, dang well they don't have insurance if you get injured, and you're doing your own stunts and everything else. I was like, this isn't really good. But at the same time, I understand that people need to get experience before they actually learn these things.
And how long have you been working in the industry? Since you've gotten all this experience. How long have you been working audiovisual?
Let's see. That's the last movie that I have that went out was around 2016. I did some commercial stuff afterwards. Kind of, died down a little bit, and then COVID happened. And then the entire crew that I had during COVID went off to go work on other things. One of the best people I ever had working with me, her name is Adriana, and she was incredible. But during the COVID lockdown, she went and got her pyrotechnics license, and so she's been traveling the world doing plays as their pyrotechnicians. So she's done everything from Aladdin to God, I can't even think of all the things she's worked on. But it's just been nonstop. I don't even really see her anymore. So it's like I just slowly lost everybody and haven't really put it back together. And then my focus kind of shifted because I have a whole new direction I'm going in, which involves VR.
So talking about VR, because this is a VR podcast, like the magic of VR is that you could do whatever you want with this new technology.
Yes,
that technology, which in my opinion, it is fairly underused, or at least I feel like there are many things that could be done with virtual reality. And that's why I like to bring people here from different backgrounds who might interpret this sort of technology in different ways. Like right now, this is a social VR platform for hanging out and meeting people, just like how I met you. I mean, otherwise, I don't think we would actually met under any other circumstances. I mean, we're in different countries altogether. It's not as easy. So, what was the thing that got you into VR in the first place?
So originally, what did get me in here? I wanted to explore it for development purposes. Was originally the concept that I had going on. And when I came in, I was on the meta side. So I went to Meta Worlds. I was just checking out meta-based games, and then I had met somebody over in Horizons, and we were talking, and we kind of became friends. And somebody came in and said they were coming over to VR chat, and I was like, why? I was like, because the image of VR chat, it looked like a kid's game, just the way that it was presented. And they're like, oh no, there's cooler things over there. So we went to go come in and see VR chat, and I have been stuck here ever since.
Stuck here.
Yeah.
Stuck here. That's your term.
There's gotta be a door
so you don't
somewhere.
call Pier-to-Pier your second home. You're stuck in here. Like that. This is where you spend most of your time.
Well, let's put it this way. When I remember when I came into VR chat, and I met like a whole bunch of various people, and I was with a group of people, and they were talking about all the money that they had spent on VR. You know, and they're like, you know, the full body tracking, their computers, and all of that, and I'm just on a Quest 3, and I'm just like, why? Why would you spend that much money? It's perfectly fine. Yeah. So as time went on, and yeah, you know, I got more fully immersed in here, and next thing you know, I'm working in VR. You know, I'm coding things, doing things while I'm actually in VR. You know, in some cozy world where there's a rainstorm or something. Which then led me to like needing more power because I'm actually trying to do work. So I'm natively, on the Mac Linux side. So I had to build a PC up to put Windows on so I could go PCVR. And then when I went to PCVR, then I turned it to a unicorn, got index controllers so that I could get more done. And then next thing I know, I got Vive controllers. Then I got a big screen beyond. And then it's a money pit.
It's a money pit, yet you're laughing. So there's definitely something that you did enjoy about the whole process.
Yeah, there is. It's the immersion in here and the possibilities of what this can become.
So you did specify that you work in VR. So you said you go into a cozy world and you just like, what is your work setup? So how do you work in VR?
This is a whole. Okay, so here's the lowdown. Well, one, I usually use like Sam and Camille's worlds when I'm working, because I just love Sam's worlds. But like cozy cabin or something like that. But so obviously I have the big screen beyond because I need light. I need very lightweight, especially if I'm going to be in VR for hours at a time. And so I have a set. I'm not using them right now, but I have a set of VR gloves by DiverX. They don't have fingertips on them, so that allows me to like type. And then I am using my Mac. But the way that I have it is I have my Mac. My Mac transmits out through HDMI, so it thinks that it's mirroring the monitor. Goes into a splitter, which strips off Apple's copyright protection because you can't get it into a capture card without doing that. So then it goes into the capture card on the PC, so that comes in as a video stream. And then inside of VR, then I use a VR overlay to bring in my screens, but they're coming in as a video stream. So I'm seeing my Mac, but it looks like I'm looking at my desktop. It looks like a desktop, and then I'm able to like use my Mac's keyboard and mouse. And because I lost pass through, then what I do is I bring up a camera on a tripod that comes over the desk that points down, and then I can bring in overlays from that. With a transparency to show to show like my coffee cup is here, or my vape is over here, or my mouse is, or whatever I need. And so and then I just sit there and I do whatever it is I need to do. But it took a lot of trial and error to get to that point.
It's an overly complicated setup.
It's overly complicated. Yeah, most people are usually going in the opposite direction that I'm going, but I needed to bring everything into VR.
Not gonna lie, my friend, that is one overly complicated setup just to run Mac. Like, I don't know if it's obvious, but Deavial over here is like you said, software architect. You work with technology, so you made a crazy ass setup. In my opinion, it's crazy to
Hmm.
make it work. But I mean, it works.
Hmm.
Like I understood everything, and the crazy thing is that it works. I mean, I feel like it's more of a hassle than it should be. Like you could just be working on Windows, but I understand working with specific operating systems. I understand that completely. But like,
Yeah.
wow, that's like some crazy dedication you have. And for a work setup that I mean, do you feel more productive? Like while you have a headset on, while you're working like that, like do you feel more productive? Like what are some benefits that you've experienced yourself?
I do I do feel more productive when I can control the environment that I'm in, or I can control the vibe of where I'm working. If I were to go work at a coffee shop or whatever, it's kind of, blah. You're getting out of the house or doing something. You go into an office, that's blah too. Plus you're getting interrupted, and endless meetings. Um, Co-working facilities can be great in the beginning, but as you get to know people, then you get interrupted a lot again, and so, but working in here, I can choose to be around people. There's other people that are working in here too, or I can choose to be alone. I could choose to be on a beach. I could choose to be in a rainy world. um, so it's just kind of like whatever I'm feeling. um, and that can have a dramatic impact on your productivity. Just the entire vibe that you're in, and the vibe that you need could change on a daily basis. So I think for working, it's a great thing. I know that Meta in them tried to promote that, but I think that they did it wrong because you really only had two choices with them. It was either you're working in here, we replicated your office, or it's, oh, look, you're in space. It just wasn't, it didn't feel right, but in here, there's so much to choose from, you know. And so I don't know. I think it works.
Do you think it might work for other people in other branches? I mean, do you feel like is it like a? I mean, for other people that do say
Work from home.
maybe not software work, but work from home on a computer. Like, do you think that might have like
I
benefits or like
I
comfortability? Like, could that be something that more people do on a daily basis, like moving forward in the future?
I I think it could, but I think the process in which it's done would have to be simplified down more. Um, it would, to be honest, I'll just give you the price tag. $6,000. I've spent about, I'm just gonna lowball guesstimate about $10,000 on my entire setup. So that's a really high price tag to pay if you're not really getting a benefit out of it. So I think in order, I mean, if you can afford it and you really want to do it. But I think that we would need to reduce the barrier and just figure out a way to simplify it down so that more people could actually do this.
I see, I see. I mean, it makes total sense. VR is not a cheap hobby for
It is
many. I
not.
mean, some use it for work. Some they call it a work tool. But at the same time, I do know that. I mean, it's gotten cheaper now because at the beginning it used to be really, really expensive. Just, I mean, there was only PCVR
It,
and a cardboard-based VR, like using your phone, really wasn't anything practical. This was more of a gimmick, just to get somebody
yeah.
dipping their toes into what VR could be. Like right now, thankfully, VR has gotten a really good price cut. So there's no need for computers anymore. Now there are headsets that have built-in processors, chipsets, everything you need in order to run really good VR experiences.
Hmm.
So I do believe that, in my opinion, it's just a price of entry that needs to go down, and it will go down with time. So the sizing, like you have a big screen beyond, and that thing is like very slim. It's tiny. It's like, I mean, there are big headsets. Like
Yeah.
I'm currently using a Meta Quest, so I do understand that headsets are kind of bulky, but maybe with time they'll just keep shrinking, and
Yeah.
maybe VR will be another facet of daily life.
Yeah, I hope
For
that
many.
I hope they do shrink because honestly, the big screen, the size is so small. It's like wearing a pair of swim goggles. It's so tiny. Of course, it doesn't have all the onboard capabilities that the Quest has, but I am interested to see what uh, the frame has, because the frame is a full-fledged Linux-based computer. I'm interested to see what you can actually pull off with that one, and if that one has more power to where you could do some of these things without all of the jerry rigging that I've done. Then we would just have to see, well, how do we make it smaller? But I don't know. The jury is still out because while we're all excited to see what the frame is, we don't really know yet because we have nobody using it, except for the
I
dev
mean,
kits.
there have been people using the Steam frame, testing it out.
Right, but they're under NDA, so
They're under NDA. They can't exactly say much, but from the few things that we have gathered, it might be a worthy contender.
Mhm.
Maybe it could be a good gateway into what is PC VR, because it might be like it runs PC VR games.
Yeah,
So
it runs Half-Life Alex from
not
what I heard, and that's
uh,
an achievement.
I mean, I haven't heard that. Like, if it can run Half-Life Alex even on a low graphics, that'd be pretty impressive. Not gonna lie, unless it's like a compressed version that is just like like character models are just like polygons,
Yeah,
like very
that's what I
crude.
heard. I heard last August of last year. I think that
Wait, before the frame even was announced, you had an
yeah,
insider.
no, it was actually leaked by, I think, by Linus is who leaked it, but I'm
Oh
not
boy,
sure.
oh boy, somebody got in trouble.
It's back when we were still calling it the Deckard. Yeah.
The Decker. That's a horrible name.
Mhm.
I much rather have the Steam frame. Sounds much better. I honestly can't wait for the Steam frame to come out. I feel like I might be an early adopter, because I do think that they're going on the right way. Plus, it'd definitely be an upgrade for somebody like me, especially having a headset with both eye tracking and finger tracking natively built in. Feel like that might be a big step up for many people, especially people
Mhm.
on the Meta platform, which, as you know, uh, doesn't have like many of the quirks and gimmicks that other headsets have, except the Quest Pro. But then again, it was fairly expensive when it first came out. So
Right.
I feel like it might be good, but we gotta wait to see what happens
I'm
with the Steam frame.
I'm honestly excited about the future on this because when I did come in the VR, I didn't really want to come in the VR originally, and it's because I remember VR in the old days when it did not look like this. It was we didn't even have mesh, or it it was all basically vertexes, and there was no there was no fill on the meshes or anything. Um it was bad, but we were kind of excited about it when it first came out, but then, like a lot of things, it died off as a gimmick. um and I was kind of expecting that when I came in the VR. I just didn't realize it had grown in leaps and bounds to what it is. I think a lot of
we
people
gotta
are
thank
thinking that.
we gotta thank the guy that made the Oculus Dev Kit, the first prototype, because I think it was his
Mhm.
push, his interest in the technology that really drove the VR machine forward. I don't think it would have been as big with. I mean, there could have been a VR industry, but it probably would have taken a bit longer to develop. So I don't remember his name. I do. I am sorry, but he was definitely the person who drove this thing forward. Oculus bought him, obviously, so there
Yeah.
was money involved. He worked on it for a while, then he quit his own company because of Facebook intervention. But at the same time, thank you very, very much for starting the big leap that eventually became the VR enthusiast business. Like
Right.
that was good.
And the people that are not paying attention to VR because they're in the same they have the same thought process that I had before I ever came years ago. Um, they need to remember the VR that we have in our head came from the 90s. And for some people, it came in the 80s. And if you even were to equate your computer from the 90s to what it is now, and if you just look at that in the leaps and bounds behind, a 486 PC versus what we have now, you should be able to
you can count the
correlate in your
frames.
head how
you
different
can count the
this
frames.
is. You're right.
Oh, you can count the frames.
Yeah, you see the refresh lines. But yeah, if you just stop and you think how different our computers are from what they were when we were first introduced into virtual reality, then if that's what's in your head, you are not prepared. You are so not prepared.
From the sound of it, you had a long career and a long interest in what is technology.
Yeah. People often mistake me and think that I'm in my 20s or my 30s, but I'm 53. I'm the world's oldest puppy. But I started my career in software in the 90s, and I actually learned the code in the 80s. But yeah, I've been around a long time.
So you've been around a long time, but why did you choose to be? Why is this your identity in VR? What did you decide to be? In your own words, a puppy.
I didn't. I didn't. It chose me. This is gonna sound so stupid and corny, but okay. Well, one, we've already established that I'm old, so we can imagine that over time, you get like jaded and bitter on things, and But originally, when I had my persona, I was a cat. And then I would flop between a cat and a volley because I really love flying in VR. I don't really feel like in a volley, but I had wings and I liked the effect of the wings while I was flying. But I thought I was a cat because I saw myself as somebody that would just push all the shit off the shelf.
So you just wanted an identity. I like knocking shit over.
Right? Yeah. It's just kind of like how I saw myself in a way, but I'm like in the music industry here in VR. I don't want to really name drop, but I think he's a wonderful person. I love everything about this man, and his name is Nice. And Nice was doing a concert, and he needed people to put on the puppy avatar for his puppy brigade, because I think he was doing the song "Pause to the Walls" or something. I think that was it might have been a different song. I can't remember. And he came up and he asked me if I would put the puppy on. I was like, I'm not a dog. I'm never going to be a dog. I'm not wearing that avatar. No, dogs are stinky. No, I'm not. Total cat attitude. but I did it for him. I put the avatar on, and I was in the group of, the instant puppy brigade of people that just were all wearing the public avatar. And when when I was running around and I was doing everything, I suddenly connected with the avatar, but it wasn't who I am, it was who I was. It was the person I was before all the trauma and just general crap that life hits you with. You know, I was giddy and happy and gooberish, and I loved who I was. And I realized that person that isn't gone. I still am that person. I just have shielded and walled, put up so many walls over time to protect myself that I guess I can't find my way out. And in this avatar, I can. There are no walls when I'm wearing this avatar. I am who I was. It's like who I truly am. And so I've been this avatar ever since. Now I'm my own version of it. And it helped release me from a prison of my own creation. And so I just didn't know I was imprisoned. And over time it started spilling out into my real life. I more and more of the walls are cracking down more and more. So it's a really interesting psychological effect that it had by putting on an avatar that I never wanted to wear. So, but
that's really interesting though, how your online identity somehow drifted into the real world and it helped you overcome obstacles, and overall it just make you a better person.
Yeah, I don't think it made me a better person. I think it just healed me in a way. I get a lot of flack in here. I get a lot of flack in here. People like look at me and think, "Oh, you're a baby fur" or something like that. It's like, no, I'm not. None of that. It's
It's like you said at the beginning of it's like you said at the beginning of the podcast. Labels. You don't like labels.
No, I don't. But it didn't change me. It just brought me back to who I was. Like, if you think of yourself and you think about who you were when you were 18, 19, 20 years old, when the world was new and you were full of hope and nobody had crushed any of your dreams yet. And it's you just hadn't become hardened. It's like that person woke up again. And it's kind of addictive addicting to be that person again, and being like, I don't want to be jaded. I don't want to be negative Nancy or anything. It's like, I want to be this person that is full of wonder and hope and joy, and so yeah, I ain't taking this off. It's embedded in my soul now. I didn't know I was a puppy, and now I know.
Sometimes we discover things about ourselves later in life. I do believe that everybody is still learning, everybody's still growing, even late into somebody's life.
As much. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, don't worry.
As much as I tout and I say to people that you can't wait for permission or anything like that, and that about boxes and stuff like that, I think in a way, the puppy gave me permission to be who I truly am, and without the walls, without worrying about any form of protecting myself, just be happy, be free. It's kind of weird considering the fact that it's like I tout this, but then I have this. Yeah.
I fully understand. I fully understand your position, and it's actually quite inspiring. Feel like
I don't know
feel
about
like
that.
there are people out there. I feel like there are people out there who might be under the same position you were a while back. They feel like they're trapped. Maybe they haven't yet discovered themselves. Maybe there's still something that is holding them back, or maybe they're still trying to discover something about themselves.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you might want to tell those people that might be those people that might be on that same position you once were, if they were listening to you?
Just be you, and don't be afraid to be you. And if it, yeah, I really don't. I think every person's situation is probably different. Not necessarily anything like mine. It could be some people are uncomfortable around other people. It could probably help with that. It, there's many things that I could see it happening. But I think the thing that I've learned the most is when it comes to the avatar, it's really not about you choosing the avatar. It's more about the avatar choosing you. That's the thing that could change everything in your life. It's the accidental, I didn't know this about me, But that is also just my circumstance, and it may not apply to anybody else. Although I highly doubt that, but I'm sure it applies to somebody out there. But we should not ever think of ourselves as unique, because none of us are actually truly unique. There's always others like us.
Those are some mighty fine words. And unfortunately, we're running a bit at a time. We're almost reaching the end of our show, of our podcast.
We got like 40 more years to cover.
40 more years. In that case, we shall have you again in the future, so we can keep talking and discovering even more interesting tidbits and helping inspire this wonderful community. With the few minutes that we have remaining, is there something you'd like to tell our great audience? Anything regarding yourself, VR? Maybe those who haven't really dipped their toes in VR, maybe those who are already invested in VR, but like they don't really delve deep into the VR social aspect. Is there something you would like to tell to the people watching us tonight?
Don't be afraid to come in. Stay out of the publics as much as you can, but don't judge VR when you first come in the VR chat by what you're going to see when you first enter, which are all the kids and the trolls and the craziness. There's a whole nother layer in here. It won't take you long to find it, and come join us.
Again, thank you, Deavial, for accompanying us tonight. It was a wonderful talk. Really appreciate your time here. And to everyone accompanying us here in Peer-to-Pier podcast, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here while we explore the people who reside within the virtual worlds and the stories and knowledge they carry. Have a wonderful rest of your day.